having good time, showing off, living the life fully. That's what Wheelie is all about. Today, I'm gonna show you how to learn Wheelie within 7 days, like in 7 days. I didn't say within a week, but in 7 days, because probably you're gonna need 1 or 2 days off. Why? I'm gonna show you just in a second. Let's start with this awesome and not that difficult trick, Wheelie. You can wheelie on pretty much any bike, full suspension, rigid, hardtail, city bike. You can wheelie on e-bike, so don't ask me the question like, Dan, what kind of bike should I buy in order to learn wheelie? We're gonna start with 3 tips on how to wheelie, which I haven't found on any wheelie tutorial online, which are crucial in my opinion, and then I'm gonna show you step by step how to do the wheelie process, and there you're gonna find 5 tips. Tip number 1. Braking with 1 finger only and having all the rest fingers on the handlebars. And some of you will probably think, what does it have to do with riding on the rear wheel? Well, you're gonna be repeating my exercises over and over again for 7 days, with some days off maybe. And if you brake with 2 fingers or 3 fingers, it's gonna be super hard for you to keep balance and just have control over your handlebars, because your fingers, your whole hands, your palms will be in pain. And don't worry, you don't need super powerful brakes, because braking for wheelie is just to get the balance. So you don't need super powerful brake. Don't worry that your 1 finger won't be enough power. Tip number 2. Within those 7 days of exercises, you're gonna need probably 1, 2, or maybe 3 days off. How to decide when to take off? Well, when you feel that you are regressing, you don't have any more progress, your wheelie is shorter, more shaky, that means all your stabilizing muscles are just tired because they are not used to this position on the bike. So do day off. Maybe after 2 days of exercises, day off. After another 2 days, day off. It's gonna boost your wheelie learning a lot. Tip number 3, extremely important. Where should our focus be? Of course, on the distance we want to make, but also what are we gonna use to steer the bike? The handlebars, kind of. Our pedals and maybe the knees to balance, kind of. But the most important thing is our pelvis, our butt and the saddle. This is the place where we actually keep balance, but also when we tell our bike what to do. So handlebars, important. Your knees, yes, you can also balance with your knees, even though your feet will be on the pedals. The legs are kind of heavy, so balancing with those helps, but it is only the helping factor. The main steering point of our bike is right here where we sit. If you get your focus right there, you're gonna learn how to wheelie 10 times quicker. All right, we're gonna turn to day number 1, and I know you're excited about that. You're gonna learn how to wheelie in 7 days. You're not gonna become a wheelie master, but you're gonna be able to do some nice, long, showing off wheelie. And so on day 1, find the right place. It can be a tarmac road, if it's safe. But some really smooth grass would be ideal. Some gravel, kind of a fire road would be okay. But the important thing is that it's slightly on the slope. So you're gonna be going up the slope just a little bit, not to get too much tired, too tired, but just slightly up the hill. Why so? Because if it would be just a flat road, it's going to be much more difficult for you to balance back and forth, because your rear wheel will be just speeding up, and then you are abusing the rear brake. If you're going slightly up the hill, just by applying a little bit more or less power on the pedals, you're gonna be able to find that balance. So the right slope and the right ground. Still day one, but tip number 2, don't use clipless pedals. Maybe if you're extremely experienced with clipless pedals, maybe you can use those, but I highly recommend to use just platform pedals. It will be much easier in case of emergency to hop off the bike and not do any damage to, first off, your bike, and secondly, yourself. Tip number 2, as I said, you can use any bike, but if you have many bikes, use the one with the shortest chainstay, so the distance between the axle of the rear wheel and your bottom bracket, the center of your bottom bracket. Also, if you have higher handlebars, it will be easier. If you have low handlebars, like very extreme cross-country bike, it will be a little bit more difficult, but still doable. But this distance, the shorter the chain stays, the better, because you're gonna sit lower and it will be easier for you to get the bike into the wheelie position. And also about the bike tire pressure, I would recommend to use a little bit lower tire pressure than the one you use normally. It shouldn't be extremely low, but just a little bit lower than you normally use might help you with balancing on the bike. Tip number 4, your seat height. I would recommend having your seat height a little bit lower than you normally use. You don't just slam the saddle completely down, because then the pedaling won't feel very natural, but a little bit lower than you normally use will help you with balancing, because your center of gravity will be a little bit lower and the pedaling will still be quite efficient or comfortable. You don't need to use dropper post, you don't need to buy a dropper post, no, just get your saddle like 2, maybe 3 centimeters down. That's what you need to know in order to start learning wheelie day 1. Those first wheelies will be super shaky and very short, but just focus on getting 1 meter on the rear wheel, 2 meters, 2.5, 3 meters, and then focus on the distance. The further you focus and you fix your eyes on, the further you will be going. But don't worry, it takes time and practice, and you need to be patient. One skill that is very good to learn at the beginning is to jump off the bike to the back, not to the side, but to the back. Those who are trying to learn wheelie with the fear in the head that you're gonna fall off on your back and hurt yourself will not learn how to wheelie. But if you know that this is safe and jumping off the bike to the back is quite easy, then you're gonna get through it and you're gonna be much more confident in learning. Can you hear the birds? And dogs and cars. Phase 1, you need to get your bike into the wheelie position. What you should not be focusing on is pulling on the handlebars. Yes, we do it, but you should rather focus on 1, pushing on the pedals, and 2, leaning to the back of your bike. In that way you consume less energy and you do it effectively. The very first wheelie can just look like that, and that's okay. You choose the gearing, you choose how high or low it should be, and then focus on getting a little bit further and further, maybe 2 meters, maybe 3 meters, and then you will start to get what it means to steer the bike with your seat bones. So do it longer and longer and longer. Great, the first day should end with some really precious lessons. Now you know how long you are actually able to learn how to wheelie, because this is pretty much physical exercise. That's because we are not very efficient in this. So maybe you see, okay, half an hour is enough. 45 minutes, I think nobody will be doing that more than for 60 minutes, because your back you will feel some back pain, you're gonna feel your hands or legs shaky. If you feel that, stop learning, you're done for the day, because you will be regressing. Your muscles should be fresh. Phase 2, that's something you're gonna be focusing from day 2 till day 7, and that's balancing, but first off with your seat bones. And then day 2, you still focus on your seat bones on the saddle, but also try to see what's going on if you move your handlebars to the right and to the left. It will depend on the geometry of your bike and the weight of your front wheel and the fork, but also try to balance with your knees and see how it goes. Then try to combine moving of your handlebars and the knees, but first off, focusing on your pelvis on the saddle. Easy. Take a deep breath or 2 or 3. You can stop the bike even and start balancing. Sit bones first, then the handlebars and your knees, everything together. And you're going, man, or woman. Woo! Phase 3, ending the wheelie. So how are you feeling? Remember, do not abuse your rear brake, rather apply the right amount of power on the pedals and go on the slope slightly upwards. Have fun! After day 2, you know everything you should know for learning how to wheelie. Some decisions to make right now is to choose the days off. Maybe after 2 days of training, day off, and then after another 2 days of training you need day off. You need to start each lesson, each exercise with fresh muscles. If you are not fresh, just call it a day and go home, because it will be very, very discouraging for you. Be fresh, have fun, that's what wheelie is all about. One pro tip: if you want to show off and you feel like your balancing is just ending, end the wheelie before you start getting shaky. That way it will look very pro.